Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, stop this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. Everybody in this context refers to us and our cats. You are free to feel however you want about Rand. He's a fictional character. Please don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
Let the games begin.
Let the games begin.
Every time we take a week off, it's like I completely forget how to do this.
How do we podcast?
And also how to, read Wheel of Time. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
What?
It's sort of...
It's completely evacuated my mind. Been replaced entirely with Survivor content.
Well,
from Railroad Tribe? Only Survivor fans.
Only Survivor fans in the building. I wanted to bring a phrase that I read in this book that I was just reading that felt like a good thing to wrap up gender politics. Not to wrap up, to just kind of pin up what we've been talking about in Wheel of Time for, 7 years now? Something like that.
7 years, baby.
So I'm reading this book called Empowered: Popular Feminism and Popular Misogyny by Sarah Bannett Weiser. Sorry, Sarah, I totally butchered that. Who is a professor of media and communications at the London School of Economics. And in this book, she's obviously talking about popular feminism, the type of feminism we see, the type of white, cisgender, heterosexual feminism.
Strong female characters. Exactly.
And she referenced this quote that what she says is, what feminist historian Joan Scott has called an add women and stir kind of liberal feminism in which the presence of women is sufficient to call feminism into being. The inclusion of women becomes the solution for all gender problems, not just those of exclusion or absence. It is, of course, important to have bodies at the table, but their mere presence doesn't necessarily challenge the structure that supports and builds the table in the first place. As Scott points out, merely including women does not address the framework of historically contingent, dominant patterns of sexuality and the ideology that supports them.
So essentially, although Wheel of Time has a great many female characters, and has often for that reason been called a feminist text, including by me, I believe, in my early years, it remains an inherently sexist text because all of the politics within it are based on a foundation of sexism, Robert Jordan's latent Southern American sexism.
Yeah.
That was a great quote. I really liked that.
Thank you. I was really, it's so, reading academic stuff is really hard, but as you guys know, we're very academic. I'm a bit of a theory head. It's just nice sometimes to have smarter people give me the words to try and express what I'm...
Add women and stir. That's women. An incredibly funny...
Yeah. That was just, so perfect for being some people really do just think you can throw a woman into any situation and therefore inherently call it a feminist text, a feminist piece of media, which is not true at all. So
yeah, and it's not just Wheel of Time. You get similar dynamics with a lot of inherently sexist media. For example, superhero comic books and media.
Yes.
If you throw a woman in it, then if you throw a woman superhero, then does it become feminist? Well, are you still depicting the woman superhero in a skin-tight latex costume? And, having her boobs front and center.
Her boobs out, full face of makeup, hair
so
done.
Tight you can see her labia, you know?
Truly. We're talking I'm at least thinking of Black Widow from the Avengers, so...
Yeah.
Almost anyone would fit that dynamic, but...
Yeah.
So, when you are consuming media, consider, has it just been add women and stirred or has someone actually done the work to build a feminist politic into that piece of media?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, I think, also with Wheel of Time's adaptation that is now coming out, like, to consider, are they doing enough structural work to actually make Wheel of Time feminist? Or are they still operating on the same, like, well, we have women who are female characters who are perhaps, in the last 20 years, the presence of women has slowly become not enough.
Yeah.
So now we're saying, okay, well, women have to be also doing more active roles. Women have to be Taviran as well as men do.
Yeah.
So are we merely doing that, or are we also doing structural damage to the inherently patriarchal structure?
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for that. I won't, I suppose, until the Wheel of Time TV show is concluded, wherever it concludes, whether that's with a cancellation in a season or two, as streaming is wont to do, or, it gets to wrap up on its own time. Who knows?
Yeah, that is a very interesting question, and I'll be keeping it in mind when the next season comes out. I would love to, at some point, maybe when I'm less inundated in Wheel of Time world, to just, like, sit down and watch the show as a viewer.
We're gonna need, like, 3 years of a detox, I think.
Not as a quote-unquote scholar of Wheel of Time.
What a horrendous thing to add to your resume. I'm a scholar of Wheel of Time. Don't ask me what that means, please. I'll have to point you to my 8-year-long podcast where you slowly see my will to live crushed.
Our will to live crushed, but hopefully our arguments and our analysis has grown somewhat more nuanced.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're no longer just talking about tapestries.
No longer talking about tapestries, although it still haunts me.
How could it not? I am coming at this from a similar tapestry standpoint that I read this a few days ago, and I have no idea what is involved in these chapters. Demandred's there.
Dumpling has showed up.
Dumplin', our boy Dumplin'.
Our boy Dumplin'.
But first, this is Everybody Hates Rand, your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Emily Jushaw.
And I'm Sally Gusher. Sorry, I just sort of expected that would drop from the sky. Who's talking?
Where is she?
Who runs this podcast? Tybalt.
And you might think the Demandred's alias couldn't get any more stupid, but wait until you hear his title. It's The Wild, but spelled with a Y instead of an I, so that you really know he's wild.
He's wild.
He doesn't listen to spelling convention.
No way.
He's wild. Yeah, like he's at a music festival or something.
Wild. Bow the Wild does sound like some type of performer.
Yeah, Edwin's like, he's wearing this sleigh outfit, whatever, and I'm like, if it's not fucking cargo shorts and a crop top, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's what I expect from Bow the fucking Wild.
Bow the Wild. Yeah, Demandred, you guys know this, is one of the most embarrassing, if not the most embarrassing Forsaken.
Ah, you're so cringe!
Literally. If I had a button of Chilchuck from Dungeon Meshi just saying, you're so cringe, I would push it every time
the heavens open up.
Yeah.
Every time I cook, the heavens open up and Senshi is there, but then every time I'm about to do something anti-work, the heavens open and Chilchuck
is there. Chilchuck Tim's.
Or just when I need a, grounded voice telling me to take myself less seriously.
Yeah.
That's Chilchuck Tim's.
I love him.
That's
Girl Dad.
America's Girl Dad. You also have to be a Dungeon Meshi fan to appreciate this podcast now.
I hope our longtime listeners have listened to our podcast and been like, I'm going to go through the same hyperfixations that Everybody Hates Rand goes through.
There's someone out there who's bouncing around between Sex and the City.
Yeah. Survivor.
Our very long Naruto phase.
Oh, that was a good phase.
I mean, it wasn't that long because
it could have been longer. Pretty quick.
Naruto,
so that was expansive. That was one of our best winters. We would drink hot chocolate and watch Naruto almost every night. And do I have any regrets? No.
Yeah, it was pretty life-changing. I think about Naruto all the time.
Anyway, Demandred, in terms of, like, most embarrassing Forsaken, at the end of the podcast, and once I know what happens to all of them, I think we should make a definitive ranking of which members of the Forsaken is, like, the most cringe and embarrassing.
Yeah, for sure.
Cringe fail. Demandred is really close to the top for me.
Yeah, it's somehow we've sort of been lured into a false sense of thinking Demandred is cool because he at least hasn't been on screen for most of the book, and when he does, he's mostly just like saying ominous things. Yeah. You're like, surely Samael is more cringe than Demandred because Samael came, saw, got eaten by mist.
Yeah. And you're like, that was humiliating.
Yeah, or Bellal, who literally gets killed in a millisecond.
Yeah.
Surely they're more embarrassing. Nope. Here's Demandred waltzing out in what he thinks is serving cunt, but is just sort of embarrassing.
Yeah, Demandred really does think he's serving cunt. He's like, I've got my Met Gala outfit, and you're like, this is one of the Met Gala outfits that like does not have the theme correct at all. He just looks so bad. And he's like, Leanne, of all people,
gets captured.
Yeah, and he's like, you tell the Dragon Reborn that I'm back.
You tell him that I'm coming. Yeah, he, in his milliseconds on screen, he does a mass murder.
Yeah.
By immolation, which is
horrifying,
but pretty standard for the Forsaken, I guess we could say. But then he also is like, I just need to field my psychosexual parasocial relationship with the Dragon Reborn and make that literally everyone else's problem. Edwene herself is like, why the fuck is he asking for Rand?
Yeah.
Don't he know where Rand is? It's the last battle.
Truly. She's like, everyone in the world knows where Rand is right now. And here comes fucking Demandred being like, I'm the one that saved the world. He like gives himself some like some title that is basically like he who comes with the dawn.
Yeah,
but like,
it sounds like his propaganda campaign for the Sharans, that he's sort of done this whole like, I am your savior in Shara in, I guess, the last 2 years or however long it's been.
Yeah.
He's like, and I mean, it's a pretty succinct way of showing us what Demandred's status is amongst the Sharans and presumably what he has done in terms of grabbing power there. He has done some sort of massive propaganda power grab with the existing very bad hierarchy.
Yeah. That
we, really only see sort of implied based on Edwene's observations. But it seems kind of like the Shemandreds. That's my celebrity couple name for Demandred and the entire continent of Shara, I guess. The Sharans aren't necessarily like, we're here doing evil. They're about as evil as the Shanshan in that they are definitely operating under a system of regularly enslaving and torturing people.
Sure.
Don't get it twisted. But they're not like, we're serving the Dark One. They're like, we're following our guy, and he's telling us what to do.
Yeah, it's
just Shanshan 2.0 at that point.
Yeah, it's this like weird, it's like we've speed run everything we can possibly do to set Demandred up as our key foil for multiple characters, like in terms of, even if he's not actually directly opposite them on screen, in terms of like some structural stuff, some thematic stuff. Yes, he's like sitting opposite Tuon as like the leader of this intense, very militaristic, very imperialist authoritarian society. He's sitting opposite Rand in that, he has run some insane... He's sitting opposite Rand and also opposite, like, the entire arc of the Ale Waste and the entire arc of the series, and Rand becoming the Dragon Reborn, and that... I like you calling it a propaganda campaign. That's pretty funny. And that he's like, actually, I'm the savior of the world. I am, instead of he who comes with the dawn, it's like he who breaks the earth or something unbelievably.
It doesn't sound positive, so it does make you question.
Edgelord. Yeah, they're like, that sounds, I don't know what that means, but it sounds sweet.
Yeah, he talks about how he's fulfilled the Sharan's prophecies, blah, 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 blah.
He who is owned only by the land, is what he
the
calls
dragons.
himself.
No clue what any of this
and you're
means.
like, that is so, it's just so embarrassing. Like, your obsession with Rand is next level.
Yeah, let's take a moment to talk about Demandred's obsession with Rand and how it is unfortunately going to utterly shape this narrative.
Cool.
Demandred is going to be so obsessed with meeting Rand. This is a spoiler, so if you're not prepared for this, then skip to the next minute or so. Demandred's going to be waltzing around the entire last battle saying, bring me Rand, I just want to fight Rand. And multiple wannabe Rands, men who wish to be the center of the narrative themselves will sort of step up to challenge Demandred in Rand's stead, and one after another generally fail.
Sure.
Which is kind of funny. But obviously we the readers are like, well, if Rand's not here, Matt should challenge Demandred, and that's an appropriate, like, one-on-one fight. If those are the rules we're going with, is that this absolutely has to be settled in a one-on-one contest of weapons for some reason.
Right.
Because that's clearly all that Demandred wants. Then it should probably be Matt. He's at that point the only main character operating in his vicinity. But over and over, it's just like, hey, Demandred, you know where Rand is.
Yeah.
He ain't here. Do you think he's gonna be like, sorry, the Dark One? I have to go talk to Demandred?
Yeah. Hold, I'm so sorry, your annoying brat teenage son is calling me.
Yeah, like the Dark One, it would all be worth it if the Dark One shows Rand a lot of visions of what's going on, you know? If only he was just like, and there's Demandred.
There's, in all caps, sighing. And there's Demandred.
There's Demandred. My cringe son.
Every family has a cringe fail cousin.
The most cringe of my children. It's like he doesn't know that you're here.
It really is like being like, I want to challenge the president of the United States to a duel. Will someone bring him to me? And everyone on the planet being like, he's probably at the White House.
Yeah. So in a way, it's appropriate that Demandred gets all of these, like, in his mind, lesser challengers. You know, it would have been much more funnier if one of them just killed him.
Yeah.
Like, immediately. Gawain's just like... Pew, pew.
That would actually be so funny. That would be almost redemptive for Gawain.
I know, it would be if Gawain was just like, I'm the best swordsman ever, and then he is, and kills Demandred. Tragically, this will not be. Tragically for Gawain, not for literally anyone else.
Yeah, it's actually probably good for... If we're talking about embarrassing characters, Gawain's pretty close to Demandred.
Yeah,
so.
there's just a lot of cringe characters walking around right now. Yeah, so in a way it's funny that it's just no one's gonna give Demandred what he wants.
Right. Oh, sorry. I had like a full body recoil.
Sally just punched me in the face.
No, I'm sorry. It was an accident.
No, it was fine. Yeah, no one is going to give Demandred what he wants, and it would be a little funnier if there was more meta commentary on it in terms of like, what is this? Why would anyone?
Yeah, it would be funny. Like, it is obviously so funny to me, but I don't know at this point in the narrative if the narrative thinks Demandred is funny and embarrassing.
The narrative takes Demandred pretty seriously.
Yeah, like, it would be actually so funny if everyone was like, this fucking loser is running around asking to fight Rand. Obviously, he sucks, so we're just gonna send him Gawain, Lan.
Or no one at all.
Yeah, or just let him run around and run himself in circles, because he's
like,
not.
Everyone's gonna keep being like, it's so important that we kill Demandred. And at a certain point, it's like, is it though? Why?
Yeah, like,
he's a powerful channeler, but, you know, that's literally the only reason.
Yeah, it's also very frustrating.
It's not like if you kill Demandred, all the Shards will fall over dead, Phantom Menace style.
Yeah. Yeah, they think the Demandred is, like, Murdrol-ified. All the Shards, like, if you kill the Murdrol, all the Trollocs around him die, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this obsession is next level. It's so unhealthy. Someone should sit Demandred down. What if Nynaeve walked in there and is like, listen... I know Nynaeve's at Shilgal. I need somebody else.
Oh, who would I picture for Demandred's therapist / reality check? I mean, the problem is that every other character in Wheel of Time is so Delulu at this point that no one is equipped to deal with this.
Yeah.
Everyone is taking him seriously, everyone is taking themselves seriously, blah, 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 blah. I guess that role traditionally would fall to Matt as trickster to sort of upend that hierarchy and make an authority figure make a fool of himself.
Right.
So that's another reason why I just want, if anyone's going to face down Demandred, it should be Matt.
But no.
No.
Anyway, Demandred shows up, so embarrassing, like, just doing murder. He floats Leanne over to him, also very Star Wars style, using the Force. Which is just like, you bring a message to the Dragon Reborn, which is
insane. Like, why her?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in Edwine's point of view. She and Gawain have just been hiding under, like, an overturned cart or something for hours at this point, watching captives be gathered when they see Demandred come through, not a gateway, but some sort of, like, just appearing out of the air. I think we see Grendel do this later, and I guess it is, meant to be, like, they're channeling using the Dark One's power, whatever that's called. The true power. Yeah, whatever. I think that's the implication, but it's a subplot that I have a hard time keeping track of, so whatever. Demandred comes. We're clearly supposed to take him very seriously as a scary threat. He literally does a villain monologue, orders a mass murder so that we're like, wow, he's scary. He is able to locate a woman who is a woman channeler, you know, which channelers are able to sense each other along the gender spectrum. So it's weird that Demandred can do this with women, and of course that scares Edwine because she's also close by. But he's like, Leanne, he doesn't call her by name, that would be so funny. Leanne, I've been watching you.
You specifically.
No, he grabs Leanne and is like, you tell the dragon reborn, I want to fight him. And Leanne's like, literally what?
Yeah. She's like,
okay.
You go find him then. I'd pick up the phone.
Yeah, what? Okay.
Go fight him. You don't have to tell someone you want to fight him.
Yeah, okay. And then he's like, wah, leaves. Or goes somewhere else, I don't know. Edwine and Gawain, meanwhile, enact their escape the fallen camp plan, which just involves hoping that they sneak real good. Gawain's, like, scouting ahead.
Gawain, wow, surprise, surprise, has activated one of the blood knife rings.
Yeah, we've manufactured a situation in which it would be stupid for Gawain not to activate the rings. Wouldn't you know it? He absolutely needs a boost to his stealth stats. Mm-hmm. And what does he have? A magic ring, a set of magic rings that will get the job done, and also give him some light superpowers. If Gawain was really willing, if Gawain was really, like, just like, yeah, this is a net good, then he would give one of the rings to Edwine.
Yeah.
And be like, we'll figure this out together. But of course he doesn't do that, doesn't tell her. It's just like, I'll scout ahead, take out any threats, clear the path for you. She obviously does not know he's wearing one of these rings. Edwine gives us some, like, as they're trying to shuffle away, Edwine gives us, or as best she can, her observations of the Sharans. I don't really care to go over it. I don't know how necessary at this point it is to understand the Sharans, only that they're channelers, much like the Shanshan channelers are, you know, low in the hierarchy. Very much creepy, soul-domified, I guess. Yeah. Edwine happens to get snatched by one who's like, I'll kill you, and Edwine's like, it's so convenient that you're talking to me about killing me for a long time. Long enough for me to telepathically alert Gawain that I'm in trouble and have a panic attack because I don't want to get captured, obviously. Gawain doesn't get to her, though, before Leolwyn Egianan does. Egianan, I guess, has come back with Baeldomon and has just been sneaking around looking for Egg, which is honestly incredibly funny of her. Yeah. She's like, what, like it's hard? Beep, 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 beep. Gawain's like, I need magic rings. And Egianan's like,
Cringe!
Skill issue. Egianan, of course, notes that Gawain is using the rings and is like, finger guns.
I would too. Egianan, what if Egianan just killed Gawain?
Egianan's like, what did I just tell you? And Gawain's like,
I do not see it.
Pretend I do not see it.
I was like, that sign doesn't apply to me because I can't read. So.
Anyway, Egianan and Gawain and Egg all get out with Baeldomon and are able to travel away to safety. So I know you were all really stressed about Edwine surviving that, but don't worry. She does not go out that way. Meanwhile, Perrin and Gaul in Teleron Riyadh are, like, wandering around, kind of looking for Slayer. They don't know how long it's been. They're like, we're kind of hungry. Perrin's like, maybe I can make food out of Taylor on Riyadh, and then that doesn't work, and he's like, oh, fuck. He has a little telepathic conversation with the wolves where they tell him, A, you need to call us into battle, which is like, what?
Yeah.
You can't. Perrin's like, you guys are independent, like famously independent creatures. Do what you want. Go into battle. But they're like, nope, we need the Wolf King or whatever the hell. And he's like, okay, why didn't someone tell me that, like back in book 4 or something? Why was it not prophesied? Anyway, they're also like, we've seen, they call her Heartseeker, because Perrin also is like, have you seen Slayer? And they're like, meh. We do know this bitch Heartseeker, though. And Perrin's like, oh, that sounds like a Forsaken.
Yeah.
Sounds like one of their classic nicknames for the Forsaken.
Yeah, Lanfear is Moon Hunter.
Moon Hunter, which is, again, stupid. Cringe. Title of this podcast, Cringe. Perrin and Gall decide that they'll go investigate this for lack of anything better to do, basically. Mm-hmm. So they show up at the Fields of Marilor camp, or, the dream version. And by doing some cool World of Dreams shenanigans, are able to spy on who we know is Grendel. Perrin and Gall, of course, do not recognize her, as she's, like, going through paperwork the way we have seen so many Wheel of Time characters do in the World of Dreams, sort of spying on each other. Eventually, she decides to leave, and Perrin, like, tries to follow her, but she senses him or something, and they start having a little fight before he manages to wound her slightly. He manages to get her on the ropes, and so she also leaves the World of Dreams. Cue Lanfear, of course. He was like, hi, I've just been watching like I do with all of your little showdowns. Not helping. Just sort of offering information afterward.
She's so annoying.
Perrin had a moment where he theoretically could have killed Grendel and again hesitated. The way the Two Rivers guys do. And iconically, he went back to Gall and was like, God, I should have taken that shot. And Gall was like, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, you should have. He's like, you could also take her captive, though, if, according to ale culture, it's better to take your enemies captive. Perrin's like, yeah. And then Lanfear walks up and is like, yes, you also should have killed her. What the fuck?
Yeah.
The only time I ever care about what Lanfear has to say is when she's like, it is so annoying that you guys are like this.
Yeah.
What the fuck? She's like, it was kind of cute when Rand did it, and now I'm just like, God, I'm fucking sick of it.
Over it.
Over it, dude. And I'm like, girl, right there with you. Slay. Or don't, as they keep not doing. Perrin's like, what was she doing here? Lanfear's like, oh, she's invading people's dreams. It's a classic Grendel move. Perrin's like, oh, that bitch was Grendel. Lanfear's like, yeah, it's her new name. It means without forgiveness. He's like, oh, don't you have a new name? And she's like, don't look at me.
That's not your business.
She's like, stop. I don't want to hear it. She hits on him. Blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, you need to learn how to, like, enter and exit the World of Dreams at will. And he's like, oh, well, can you teach me? She's like, no. That's just something you've got to figure out on your own. And he's like, what? Why'd you fucking bring it up then?
Lanfear is actually so funny in this book. Like, why are you here? You're being so unhelpful. You decided to show up and do absolutely nothing.
Lanfear is, from a narrative standpoint, like a functional standpoint, the authors are clearly just sort of like throwing her in to dispense information to Perrin. Perrin's not exactly a detective.
Sure.
So while he's doing all this sort of like CSI work in Teleron Riyadh, it makes sense that there would be a character here to dispense information for him. But from a like character actual standpoint, it seems like Lanfear just is A, stalking Perrin. Mm-hmm. Not exactly uncharacteristic for Lanfear, but what are you gonna do? I guess she's just not doing the last battle. She's like, oh, don't worry about me, I'm gonna be doing World of Dreams stuff. And the Dark One is just like, yeah, I don't supervise you guys. Look at Demandred.
That employee is off the rails.
He's somehow an extremely lenient manager, the Dark One. Lanfear's just stalking Perrin, showing up, being incredibly unhelpful, and then leaving. She's exactly like that Sailor Moon meme where it's like...
where Tuxedo Mask shows up.
My job here is done, but you haven't done anything. Leaves.
Yeah, exactly.
That's Lanfear. She's like, well, my job here's done. Perrin's like, you have not helped me. She's like, bye.
I would love if this was the only book where we got a Gaul point of view and he's just sitting there.
He's watching this like, there's this insane woman.
Yeah.
Flirting with Perrin. It's a very Barrelane move. In fact, she kind of reminds me of Barrelane because she's ridiculously hot.
Yeah.
What is it with ridiculously hot women throwing themselves at Perrin? Gaul might ask himself.
And
then Gaul will break the fourth wall and be like, oh, it's a male author fantasy.
And you're like, why aren't all the incredibly attractive women throwing themselves at your feet? Gaul is the real question.
That is the real question, because as we know, Gaul is way more attractive than Perrin on many levels. Anyway, Lanfear gives Perrin 2 important pieces of information. Numero uno, it has been a long time since he has been in Tel'aran'rhiod. I think it's been like a week. Mm-hmm. She's like, yeah, time is fucky here, so you're gonna have to deal with that. Perrin's like, oh, crazy. So, in a way, that means Perrin and Gaul physically have not, like, eaten for a week. Mm-hmm. Numero dos, Grendel was not invading just any dreams, but Bashir's dreams, specifically. Now the pieces come together. Perhaps Bashir, along with all of the other generals, are getting mind melded by the Forsaken. This isn't surprising at all, but now we're getting confirmation. Next we get an Aviendha point of view, as she and her squad are sort of entering Thakandar, I guess, not Shale Goal. This is just like a battle sequence. Aviendha sort of spearheading a group of channelers. We're just getting the vibes, getting the sense of what this particular battle is going to look like.
Yep.
It's a whole lot of, channeling, explosions, people linked, which always really freaks me out as soon as I, think about it. The idea of being in a circle and you not having control of the circle, which means you're not able to channel to defend yourself. That's freaky and weird.
Yeah.
Aviendha has a sort of minor confrontation with the most powerful channeler present in Thakandar, which again is Grendel. Grendel's going to be sort of the main force to contend with here in Thakandar for Aviendha specifically. Aviendha, as they're all doing this, sees Rand up on the slope of the mountain, and they do the, fantastic Mr. Fox wave at each other. Goodbye. Forever. And then are like, well, we've said everything we need to say. And I'm like, you sure have.
And then some, really.
Then some, yeah. And just sort of get on with the business. Aviendha's like, I'm gonna have to do leadership now, I guess.
There's a reference to some of the other women that they're fighting being... What are their names?
Oh, yeah, we see a couple of, We see a couple of Black Aja.
Yeah.
One of them, I think, is one that has been omnipresent since book 3.
Valiant or whatever her name is.
And they're referred to as Dreadlords. Aviendha, someone's like, is there a difference between Dreadlords and Black Aja? And one of the Aes Sedai is like, yeah, duh. And then we don't hear what the difference is, so there isn't.
That really pissed me off. Yeah. I was like, okay.
Well, what is it then?
Is it just like a Girl Scout badge?
No, Dreadlords is just the umbrella term that they're going to use for enemy channelers. I have no idea, within the actual context of the book, I have no idea if there's some sort of meaningful difference.
I like to think that it's like becoming an Eagle Scout. You have to complete a community anti-service project. A community disservice.
Murders.
Yeah. Community disservice project in order to
You have to participate in enough failed evil plans. And then you become a Dreadlord. What are we dreading? It's unclear. They're kind of losers, all of them.
You're dreading doing more failed evil plans.
Yeah. God, I hate them. And their evil plans. Swiper, no swiping.
Swiper, no swiping. You have to participate in enough failed evil plans. You have to log your hours in failed evil plans.
Just, that's all they're good at, is failing at evil plans. Finally, we get a Rand point of view as he is preparing to step into Shealgol proper. He is with Moiraine, Nynaeve, and Tom has also accompanied them. Tom's function is going to be literally sitting outside of the cave entrance and sort of bodyguarding it, making sure no one sneaks in to, I guess, stab Rand in the back while he's in there. Rand starts bleeding as soon as they're approaching his good old side wounds. Nynaeve's like, ugh, and Rand's like, that's fate, baby. It's those prophecies.
Yeah, we get the infamous blood on the fulfillment of the infamous blood on the rocks, which Rand has always seemed to reference that means he dies there. That's what I've always kind of pictured.
Yeah, so when we're getting like, oh, blood on the rocks, oh, maybe he just needs to bleed on them lightly. Yeah. Although he's bleeding quite a bit, enough to like go down his...
And yeah, he's like, it pools in my boot, and I'm like, that is so much blood to have run down your leg, to pool into your boot and then out of your leather boot.
Yeah, that's like...
I'm
insane.
Very concerned.
You're gonna be bleeding that hard for the entire last battle? We did at one point... I can't remember if it was Lanfear or someone else who gave us this information, but we learn of a sort of time dilation effect that is going on with Shealgol at the epicenter, and which is a pretty clever move, I will say, on the parts of the authors in order to allow us to bounce back and forth between Rand, whose confrontation with the Dark One, you know, there's no way could stretch for the weeks that the rest of the last battle is going to go for. So from here on out, Rand's confrontation with the Dark One is at most a couple hours in terms of his real experience of time, which means what's happening with Avienda and the others outside of the cave is a few more hours. Again, not that long, and everyone else is sort of going in much faster time.
Fascinating.
So mechanically pretty clever in order to keep everyone on pace in terms of Rand can have a climactic confrontation when everyone else is also having climactic confrontations.
Totes.
So yeah, if you're like stressed that Rand's gonna go in there and be like, well, I'm stuck here for 3 weeks not drinking or eating.
And just openly bleeding.
And bleeding so much. No, shouldn't take that long. But yeah, he has Moiraine and Nynaeve link up with him guiding the circle, which, as Moiraine points out, leaves him vulnerable to attack, but he's like, don't worry about it. Again, I would not be gung-ho about just being like, sure, take my magic power. It will also, again, leave Nynaeve and Moiraine pretty helpless.
Yeah.
And I mean, Nynaeve probably has like a knife, but
good for her.
That's sort of an aspect of circles and the sort of linking process that we haven't really explored for something that is so crucial in this last stage.
Yeah. Moiraine actually has an AK-47 hidden under her dress that
she just pulls out her Glock. What, like it's hard? Shoots the Dark One.
Yeah. So I think she'll be fine.
As Rand enters the cave, he gets the all caps voice of the Dark One.
It is time, let the task be undertaken.
Yeah.
Which, like, the Dark One is so cunty in the way that all the Forsaken wish they were. Like, they're trying so hard. The Dark One just being like, let the task be undertaken.
He's like, yeah, bitch, I'm ready for you.
I just think it, like, slayed really hard for him to just be like... And I also think it's really interesting to point to the idea that this is the fate the Dark One has also been building to. Like, it'd be fascinating to explore the Dark One as... I don't know, not really a character. I don't know, but yeah, as a character, as a presence, as a consciousness, like what's happening with him.
I just realized this might not be meant to be the Dark One, but the creator.
Oh, it makes sense.
I'm having a vague recollection of that being clarified later on. Oh. I could be totally wrong.
Rand to say thank you.
Yeah, Rand says thank you, which seems odd to say to the Dark One.
Oh, well, that's kind of less cunty, I'm going to be honest.
It is less cunty. It would be incredibly funny if the Dark One was like, hey, girly.
Hey, girly, are you ready to fight for the fate of the world?
You ready to fight, bitch? And no, it's just the creator being like,
go forth, my champion.
Go forth, my champion, which honestly, I would be like, come down here and do it yourself,
yeah,
old man.
What's the point of you?
I don't want the creator walking around at this stage of the game.
I know.
He's been such a non-entity.
You showed up at the end of the Eye of the World to be the most confusing sequence in the entire series, which is like a pretty...
a high bar,
yeah.
I would say, yeah.
And now you're here to just be like, okay, well, you did that. I told you to do that one thing a really long time ago, and now I'm back to be like, you did all the things I apparently asked you to do, but never helped with.
Yeah, again, as a text that is dealing so much with the, like, battle of good and evil, but also veering into religious terminology, the Wheel of Time remains weird and sort of uncertain of its own identity in that.
Yeah.
And I think bringing in the creator really weakens its sort of central thesis, which is that light needs a human champion.
Yeah.
Because then for real, at that point, it just becomes, okay, well, why does he have to fight evil itself?
Yeah.
When there's good itself, or whatever the hell,
Right.
up there to do it. Yeah, weird. And also, I think they should distinguish somehow between the Dark One's all caps and the creator's all caps. Like, maybe the creator could be in, like, rainbow text.
Rainbow text.
Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month.
Let the task be undertaken.
Let the task be undertaken. I just did my wrist
And does
like
a
that.
fruity little wrist gesture.
Yeah, at the end, the dark one is every letter is different rainbow text. Like in Tumblr, if you type like LGBTQ
Yeah.
in the tags, it'll make it rainbow.
Cute.
And then at the end, there's an emoji of him doing the little gay hand. And the dark one, yeah, just gets normal. It's kind of boring. I think if we were really going to talk about villain coding, the dark one would have the rainbow
Yeah,
text.
because villains are queer-coded, as we all know.
And the fruity little wrist.
The Dark One could have been so incredible. He was just like, look at my cringe sons.
My cringe sons and my thought daughters.
Yeah. Rand's like, what happened to Asmodean? And Demandred's like, who?
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is. What are you talking about? I didn't resurrect him.
Asmodean? I've never heard of her.
What?
In my version of the Dark One, Asmodean would be his favorite.
Because he's the gayest.
It's because he's the gayest. The Dark One is like, the Dark One has a board where
I
he's
will
ranking
rank you
the
all
Forsaken.
from cringe to gay.
Yeah, exactly.
This is
At the exact center is someone who manages to be both cringe and gay.
my fruitiest employee of the month. Who is equally cringe and gay?
I know, I'm trying to think.
Let me reflect on that. It might be Ishmael.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too. Ishmael, or like, yeah, probably Ishmael.
Ishmael died 3 times, but every time he comes back, he actually is surfing cunt.
He really is.
Demandred should take a leaf out of his.
Yeah, Ishmael's probably at the center. Again, await our official ranking of the Forsaken on the spectrum of cringe to gay.
Yeah, we are really going to spend a lot of time thinking about that.
I'm sitting here being like, where would Mogadeen fall? Where would
More
Samara?
further on cringe,
Yeah,
I'd
I think
say,
so, too.
to gay.
Mogadeen.
Unfortunately, most of the ladies are more cringe than gay.
Yeah, well, feels homophobic, but I can't allow it. But there's something I can do about it.
Okay, next couple of chapters. Now that Rand has entered, we're not going to get a lot more of Rand, just in terms of, like, keeping up with that time stuff.
Sure.
So, sideline Rand for a while. We're, again, mostly going to be focusing on more of the other battle fronts. With our new information about the generals being compromised, we're going to have to deal with the aftermath of the Kandor battlefield absolutely getting eviscerated. And as the Sharans entered the battle, so are the Shanshan about to, unfortunately. Yeah.
Could we not do that, actually?
And I wish we weren't, but here we are. Okay, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Thanks to Glenna McKenzie for our theme song. Thanks to our patrons on Patreon and our followers on social media.
You guys are sensational.
Yeah. Anything to...
We've made this announcement on our social media, but I know not all of you follow us, which is totally fine, so to put the announcement out there, we only have a few transcripts left for the show.
Yeah.
And typically we ask for sponsorship help in order to pay ourselves a little bit of money back, because transcripts can be pretty task intensive. But in lieu of that, we are offering up, if you donate $5 or more to any of the GoFundMes on Operation Olive Branch. If you guys are unfamiliar with Operation Olive Branch, it is a sort of community aid, mutual aid effort to help families who are in Gaza and Rafah in Palestine or looking to evacuate. The evacuation fees are unfortunately very high because there are many people in the Egyptian transit authorities who are taking advantage of the situation. So And of course, the cost of living in Rafah and other areas of the Gaza Strip is incredibly expensive right now. So if you wanted to support that mutual aid effort, which I think is really exceptional and it's a really cool program that's being designed, you can pick any family on their spreadsheet. It's organized to help you find families that might resonate with you, whose stories might resonate with you. Just send us, you can DM us or email us a picture of your donation, and we will put up a sponsorship tile for you on one of the transcripts. And might not be the biggest incentive, but hopefully at least get you thinking about where, if you have an extra $5, how much that could make a difference in somebody else's life. So
yeah, the cool thing about Operation Olive Branch is that they have already done the work of vetting these GoFundMes.
Yes.
If you're worried about being scammed, which unfortunately is a reality in our day and age, people will take advantage of any situation. But yeah, they have vetted these GoFundMes and listed them in a very consumable way.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to just click on one and donate.
Click on one and donate. And yeah, like Emily said, that, thank you for pointing that out. If you are worried about that, like, you can know that the money is going to these families and not to someone scamming.
Yep. Do you have a sign off?
I do. This is a little medical trauma for the girlies.
Oh, yeah.
I've been doing, everyone in the world knows that I have like the worst stomach in America, and my allergist wanted me to do tests to test for sugar intolerances, which is truly, if you've ever done them, they're breath tests, truly wretched. My allergist, their process is that there's 4 sugars, and the first test you test for all the sugars, and if you test positive, you have to do each sugar individually. Well, I tested positive to all 4 sugars, and then proceeded to test negative to every sugar individually. And my allergist walked into the room after my test yesterday and sat down, and he's like, "You are literally the only patient in all my years of practicing that this has happened to." And I was like, cool!
Like, you're gonna be like,
I know.
what an accomplishment.
And I was like, wow.
No one in a medical setting wants to be like, you're the first person this has happened to. It's nightmare fuel.
And then at least he's being honest, but he's like, I don't really know what to do. And I was like, okay,
I love that.
thank you.
So
He did give
reassuring.
me some options, which was nice, but he's like, I don't really know. And I was like, okay, thank you. This has been so fun. This has been so rad. So anyway.
Cringe.
Yeah, talk about cringe. My stomach.
Cringe decay on the spectrum.
Where are you on
What's
the
your
spectrum
stomach?
of cringe decay?
Okay, everyone. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.